Hey everyone, I hope you're doing well and welcome back to the channel. So I've just gotten back home after my holiday away, which was absolutely wonderful. I got to see my partner, got to rest, got to relax, and I got to pat my dog lots, so, you know, very, very happy Rex here. And I thought, you know what, it's time to go back to the warbirds a bit in War Thunder. So today we're going to be having a look at the BF-110 G-2, which is one of my favourite heavy fighters in the game. Even though it is now classed as a strike aircraft, I will always look at this thing as a heavy fighter. So the 110 G2, what do you get? Well, it's a rank 3. It is battle rating 3.7 for sim, which means you can take it out straight away. It's a 110, so it's got, you know, twin engines, relatively good speed, and it has a generous ground attack armament, as well as an armament that does it quite well in the heavy fighter role as well. So you have the options of fitting things like, you know, 1,000-pound bomb with a 250 and a couple of cannons. You can take out two 500s of cannons, you can take out 12 smaller 50s with cannons, you've also got the Werfergranate 21 rockets you can take out, and you also have the options of fitting a relatively high velocity 37mm BK cannon as a secondary armament on this thing as well. So it's got pretty good multi-role purposes here, and being 3.7, it is in a great spot for you to have a lot of fun with, because in Sim 3.7, it sits square at the bottom of EC3, which means you can take it out as many times as you want, get used to it, practice with it, without the risk of respawn timers and things like that. Now, a couple of things to be wary of with the 110. It is, of course, a heavy fighter, and so, you know, you're not going to expect the same sort of maneuverability that you would get out of something, you know, single engine, like a 109 or a 190. But twin engine fighters have a magic all on their own, and one thing that definitely helps this thing out is the rear gunner. The rear gunner on this is particularly nasty. It is a little bit more difficult to use in VR, as you will see shortly in this video. VR has got some limitations when it comes to the rear gunners, but if you're a mouse and keyboard user, or if you're a joystick user with just a TrackIR or hat track or whatever, you can use the gunners to much better effect than what I get in the game. Now with the 110, I have three preferred setups. If I'm doing ground attacking, I will either go with the combination of the 1000 and the 250 bomb with the two cannons, or I will run the single 37mm gun mounted under the fuselage. If I'm not going for ground targets, I shall take the 4 cannons in the nose, and you will want to definitely take the air target belts, which has got the Mine-Geschoss rounds. These things destroy everything they touch, and when you get 4 of them in your nose, it is quite nice. It is very, very good at destroying planes. One thing I will say though is this thing is not ideal if you're lone wolfing it, like if you're playing on your own and not with other people. It can be used in like a solo way, but I've always had a lot more fun and a lot more success flying this aircraft out when I've been flying with other people, so that I've got people watching my back, and I can also watch people's backs and dive in and take attacks of opportunity. This is where the 110 really comes in on its own. You don't really always want to be taking on things one-on-one, because usually if they're a monoplane and a single engine monoplane, they're gonna win usually. With this, what you want to be doing is finding a position where you can get above and ideally on top of the enemy without them knowing, getting down on them whilst they are distracted, and ripping their wings off with your delicious 20mm cannon rounds. This thing also does incredibly well in head-ons. Unfortunately, we didn't get many of those in the sim games that I took this out on, but what we'll do now is we'll hop into the game, and I will show you guys how this thing should be roughly used to effect. So today's game was on the Maginot Line Enduring Confrontation map, and I flew out with some people from my squadron in the Discord server that I run, and I thought as a nice warm-up I would take out the 110 with the configuration where it's carrying the 1000 and the 250 kilo bomb and the 2 cannons, and do a bit of ground attack. So there are a couple of ground battles going on in this game, and to the north part of the map, and that is where we are heading right now. So for those of you who have watched my cast tutorial, what I'm doing now will seem, of course, very familiar. You line up your tank in your crosshair, and what you want to do is drop your bombs when it's just at the bottom of said crosshair. A little bit of rudder adjustment right at the end there, but we do get the kill. And in fact, looking back on the replay as I was trying to get some thumbnails for this video, the bomb was that accurate, it bounced off the side of the tank. It was gorgeous. So there was no way that tank was going to survive that particular bomb hit. Now, I dropped the 250 first because I always like to drop the smaller bomb and then go with the heavier bomb afterwards. It's just a superstition of mine. I always drop the smaller bombs first for whatever reason. It's just always been a thing. Now I'm trying to line it up to hopefully destroy, if not damage, 2 tanks. At the last minute I decided just to drop it on the one at the back instead of trying to slot it between the two and almost pancake into the ground, not realizing that that field sort of was on a bit of a rise there. We did get the kill on another tank, and in fact we ended up doing some sort of damage to the one next to it. And with the bombs out of the way, it was time to get on the guns and blow up some artillery pieces. Now, there were no enemy pillboxes at this battle, so it was just a case of hitting the soft targets on the ground, which is something that the 110 does excellent with, particularly as it has a very generous amount of cannon ammunition. Now, after destroying a few pillboxes, I decided it was time to get out of there before people saw the kill feed and went chasing me. And what we saw there was a pretty bad attempt at doing a head-on with a P40. I was a little bit concerned going into this dogfight because my squad mates weren't with me at the time. However, the P40 wasn't the most maneuverable of aircraft at these lower speeds, and the pilot gave me a really nice deflection where I was able to get quite a nice critical hit there. Quite surprised the mine rounds didn't actually rip the wing off completely. The pilot's popped his smoke, so at this point I know that they're flying with a friend, so I'm trying to finish this off as quickly as I can, because it's a pretty common tactic in Sim that people will use aerobatic smoke to mark their position visually in the map. I'm not a supporter of it usually, to be honest. I think it kind of breaks the immersion a bit, but hey, if it's a tool to use in the game to get assistance, why not? Well, we ended up getting the kill on that aircraft anyway. They ended up falling out of the sky. Might have done some pretty heavy control service damage, but it just looked like that they were sort of in a spiral of death by the end of it. Now, after getting rid of that, I decided to have another quick couple of passes on this ground battle to see what I could do. However, I should have checked my 6 a bit more thoroughly, as my machine gunner goes off, alerts me to an attack, and I get pilot sniped. So, yes, that'll teach me for ducking down low after a dogfight without seeing if they had a friend. Now, of course, one of the main fare of the BF-110 pilot is the big juicy fat bomber. Now, when at all possible, it is good to either get a side approach or a extreme high elevation approach on these bombers. What I'm doing here is not the best approach on this Halifax, but I had missed my initial pass, and so I decided, you know, he's distracted trying to take out that other fighter. I might be able to squeeze in a couple of rounds here, take out his wing, and that's exactly what happens. Now, they do get their bombs off. Unfortunately, this brave pilot doesn't end up bombing the target. The bombs just landed in the adjacent village, unfortunately for them. But it was touch and go. They almost got the base, but didn't quite have the legs on the bombs. And what we have here is a distracted P-47. Now, when I say distracted, I actually mean absent-minded, because yeah, they were completely unaware of me chasing them. Luckily for them, my aim was not good at all. That should have definitely been a kill shot, but I completely whiffed it, and whiffed it again here, as you can see. So, you know, given this P-47 plenty of opportunities to try and get away and get a reversal on me. However, third time's the charm, and they explode in a fireball of death. Now, also didn't help the 47 that I caught them at relatively low cruising speed. They weren't going particularly fast, and so that sort of put the balance of that fight in my favor dramatically more than even the fact that I got the jump on them to begin with. And what we have here is another P-47, but a far more competently flown P-47. Now, they're not aware of me at the moment, because they're currently in the process of booming and zooming a friendly 109. Now, they set the 109 on fire and get the kill. I squeeze off a couple of rounds to try and, you know, get their attention, maybe pull them into a snap turn. However, they continue to extend, and we are taking a bit of a risk here because eventually the P-47 will outrun me, and I'm basically putting this thing on the red line to catch up with the 47. However, much to my relief, they pull up into a pretty steep vertical climb here, killing off a lot of speed. Despite being a heavy fighter, the 110's pretty decent with its energy retention, the G-2 variant anyway. This 47 is going straight up and losing all speed. Now, we're losing all speed as well, however, it gives us a perfect stationary target right at the top of their arc, and we're able to knock off the wing, and that's the end of that. Now, pretty much all of those engagements so far were attacks of opportunity where I was coming in with a relatively good advantage either due to altitude and speed or the enemy not knowing I'm there. After landing and rearming, I decided to give it a try with the 37mm because it's relatively high velocity and relatively accurate, but as you're about to see here, I need to do a bit more practice with this. I've only really done ground attacking with it, and coming down into a low altitude dogfight trying to get somebody out of the sky with a 37 was just asking for trouble. Not only because it's difficult to aim a relatively large caliber cannon at fast moving aircraft, but also I came down at quite a fair lick, and the 110 does compress quite a bit. That is something to bear in mind. You know, it does have a relatively good top speed, but its elevators compress really badly, and so you won't be able to do like tight vertical turns near your top speed. It just won't let you do it. And as we can see here, like, you know, lots of 37s going astray. Got a couple of rounds pretty close on this aircraft, but then they decided to do a magical flat spin, and I overshot, and they ended up getting away at the end of this fight. I actually ended up getting shot down out of the sky by one of their friends, but we got back in the fight about 5 minutes later, and this is us literally returning to the same area with the same furball for a bit of revenge. Now, I'm still running the 37mm cannon, but what I am going to be doing now is using it in conjunction with the regular 20mm, the MG150 120mm, because I'm just not trusting my accuracy on its own with the 37. It is a great cannon for taking out ground targets, but need a lot more practice when it comes to taking out fighters anyway. I didn't really get much of a chance to use it on bombers, which was a real shame. The only bombers I encountered was at the time when I was just running the 20mm only and not the 37. So who knows? Maybe we'll get another video in the future where maybe I look at, you know, the cannon-armed German attackers in general. And here we come under attack. Now, I was able to get a cheeky gunner kill there without even using the gunner. It took out the British fighter that was right on my tail. Talk about a nice bit of luck there, and we are able to come in and finish off this fighter in a moment that we've been trying to take out for the past couple of minutes with minimal luck, mostly because I completely forgot how to lead the guns on this thing after not flying it for a long time. And going from flying single engine aircraft to twin engine for the first time in a while, it has a bit of an adjustment to it. You know, some people are good at switching between aircrafts like that, but I'm not as good as that. But hey, we finally get the kill, knock out its wing and its tail, and unfortunately we have now got a bigger problem as there is an enemy on our 6, and this perfectly highlights the issue with using gunners in VR and War Thunder. Everything is tied to the VR headset, so when you move the gun around, you don't move the camera is stuck to your head, so you can only really use the gunners when they're facing directly to your rear, which is okay for like a 110 because it's set up like that, but with bombers that have got multiple turrets, things like that, it basically makes them unusable in VR. Now, I had a fair old crack at taking out this twitchy, glitchy fighter, but unfortunately it was not to be, and as you're about to see here, we're going to go down in a bit of flame. Now, despite struggling with the gunner situation in VR quite a bit in this game, it definitely put a smile on my face overall. I really need to get back to doing a lot more prop stuff in War Thunder. It's a lot more close quarters. It's a lot more fun. You know, air combat maneuvers are a bit more interesting, I guess. I mean, jets have their own beauty and their own complications and everything, but I'm a warbirds person. Like, I do prefer old school propeller driven aircraft to jets when it comes to, you know, this sort of air combat, mostly because, you know, once you get to jets, the speeds get so great that, you know, gunnery isn't as common, particularly, you know, once you get to jets that have missiles, and then you've got BVR and all of that. So there is something particularly nice, quaint, just generally fun about taking out a prop and getting into proper dogfights and slapping a captured 109 out of the sky like we do right here. It's for me, it's a lot more satisfying, and so, you know, even though I'm flying a relatively large, heavy fighter, I've got a huge grin on my face as I'm clapping everything out of the sky from this way to Sunday. And what we see here is one example where the rear gunner actually works when I decide to use it. So after taking out that captured 109, we got quite heavily pursued by a premium XP50, the American twin-engined pocket rocket thing. And they got some hits on us. You know, we're leaking water. I decide, oh, you know, I'm probably going to die anyway, so I'll squeeze off a couple of rounds at this, and started actually landing some hits. So I thought, oh, you know, they aren't moving particularly well at my field of view, and boom, they are on fire. And I actually ended up getting the kill for that. They burnt for like the next 45-50 seconds, but I ended up getting the kill, and that was a pretty satisfying way to wrap up the game, if I'm honest. So yeah, that's the BF-110 G2. It is a pretty capable heavy fighter, although, as you saw, it does better when working with other people than it does solo, unless luck happens to be on your side. I enjoy flying this aircraft a lot, and particularly across both of the major Warbird games, so this and IL-2. This aircraft is a lot of fun in IL-2 as well, but of course we're playing War Thunder today. I'm not too sure what my next reviews are going to be on. I've got a couple of aircraft reviews already editing in the pipeline, but aside from that, got no idea what I'm doing next. I'm happy to take some suggestions in the comments if anyone has any particular suggestions they want to make. Bear in mind, I don't have every aircraft in the game unlocked, so some of them I may have to deny until I either get the aircraft unlocked or until I am able to get a rental for it. But yeah, that was the video on the 110 G2. I hope everyone enjoyed it, and as always, thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you all next time. Goodbye.